Joining me right now, it's strange to say it, but from Atlanta, United FC, former TFC defender Mark Bloom. Mark, welcome, my friend.
Hi, Anthony. How's it going?
And pleasure's all mine. It's going good. Mark, let's talk about it. This has got to be, for you, unbelievable time in your life right now. You're going back to Georgia. You're playing with an expansion team, Atlanta United FC. When all that, came about and it was official, what was going through your mind? What was going through your family's mind when you told them?
Well, for my family, first and foremost, they were ecstatic. They couldn't believe that it actually happened. Because as soon as Atlanta was announced that they were coming into the league, they were kind of talking to me like, well, I hope you play for Atlanta. I hope you play for Atlanta. I said, it doesn't really work like that. I can't just choose where I want to play. Maybe it will work out, maybe not. But as soon as it worked out, they couldn't believe it, and they were so happy. As for me, it was a little bit of a shock. Probably 2 days after we lost in the championship game, I was excited to be a part of Toronto, a part of what we were doing there, and a part of the best team in the MLS. And so I was sort of excited to prepare for next year and build off what I was able to do this year, coming off of injury and all that. So it was a little bit of a shock, but then as time went on and I figured out how everything was going to work out with my soccer career and my family, it's all falling into place, and it's all been perfect, really.
Mark, let's go back to talk about your TFC days. You always made time for the fans. You always made time for people like myself to come on my show. You made time for the media. You're a humble guy. Unfortunately, there was some injury situations there, but you were a guy that didn't ruffle many of the feathers. You were a team player. You put the team first, and that's how you always displayed yourself. Talk about the memories at TFC. Talk about your relationship with head coach Greg Vanney, playing in the final, and the fans.
Well, I'll tell you, I have nothing but respect for everybody at Toronto. Tim Bezichenko, Greg, Bill Manning, all of them, and even Ryan Nelson, when I first got there, is where I first got my start. So I'll always have fond memories of Toronto. I still remember my first game against New York Red Bulls and guarding Thierry Henry. That's something that will live with me forever. And so my first 2 years there were incredible, and then my third year, unfortunate to be out all year with major injury and surgery, and then this year being tough to make it back into the squad after missing a full year. Definite ups and downs, but like you said, I was always grateful to be a part of the team and part of the organization and part of what they were doing there. So I have nothing but fond memories there, and there's no hard feelings whatsoever. As soon as I got the call that I was traded, I was immediately thankful to Tim Bezichenko for having me and believing in me. Nothing but great things from as far as the team, the organization, and especially the fans. Some of the best fans in the league. Just great people all around.
So, Mark, let's fast forward now. Let's talk about Atlanta, your new club, your new team. They're getting ready days from now, maybe even less than days from now, for training camp, a new journey, a new time in your life, and a new team in MLS. You're, I would say, one of the veterans who has plenty of games under your belt. There'll be a lot of young guys there. What do you want to bring to the table? What has the coaching staff said to you? What has management said that they expect from you to bring to Atlanta?
Well, first and foremost, just to be a part of the team, and they're trying to bring in good guys who are going to fit into a team, bring a good atmosphere to the locker room. So first and foremost, I want to do that. But I want to be what I was in Toronto when I was playing. A solid, consistent right back who's going to get forward, who's going to get crosses in, somebody who's going to contribute game in, game out, somebody who's very reliable, and you know what you're going to get every day. Just bringing that mentality into training as well. Working as hard as I can, being an influence to the younger guys, like you said. We'll have plenty of them. So working in that sense, and also working to kind of gel the team together, because obviously it's tough to get 26 new guys together in a couple weeks and become a team. So that's going to be a challenge for us, but I think we have the right people to do it.
Mark, let's talk about the league, how it's changed since the first day you entered in MLS. It's no longer, in my opinion, following this league since day one, 20 years ago, no longer a kick-and-run league or a physical league, as they like to say. Sure, it's physical in some aspects of the game, but I've seen it grow more into a possession type of league. I'm starting to see some more identity where players have to start using their head more and more, in that you just can't outrace a guy or outmuscle a guy for a ball. I think this is important, especially with a guy in the position you play. How are you now going to adapt where you're starting to see new players coming from all over the world that have been ingrained with this type of mentality and style of play where you're going to go up against this season?
Yeah, well, first of all, I totally agree with you as far as where the league is going, and it's definitely becoming a more technical and more tactical league. Teams around the league are starting to form their own identities, and, they're bringing in players to fit that mold. So as they do that, the players have to adapt. And like you said, I'm going to have to adapt to a new level each and every year because the MLS is growing like that. So as far as my responsibilities as a right back, it's not just defense anymore. You're responsible for building out of the back, being responsible in possession, getting forward, and of course, first and foremost, defending. But so it's just every year there's more and more on your shoulders, but it's something that you look forward to and that you're happy to see in this league.
Mark, how important is it to have a locker room that is a happy locker room, a locker room that has music pumping, blaring, everyone's grooving, everyone's on the same page? How important is it to have a leader in that room to talk to the young guys and to show by example on and off the field? We saw the trade the other day with Dax going over to Chicago. You played, in my opinion, with one of the best leaders in MLS, and I would say in all of CONCACAF, in Michael Bradley. He's a pit bull and a wonderful leader. Talk about how important it is there from what you've experienced with Michael Bradley.
Yeah, it's extremely important to have a leader in the locker room, but also important to have every guy in the locker room be able to contribute, especially letting the young guys have a voice and letting them have a place in the locker room. I think that's incredibly important. And going back to our run to MLS Cup in Toronto, our locker room was unlike any other, I think, in TFC history, where everybody got along. There was no really division or separation. We were united as a team in a vision, in a goal, and we knew we had the right players to do it. And I think last year was the first year I saw everybody kind of come out of their shell in the locker room and contribute in that way. And so it's important to hopefully bring that atmosphere into the new Atlanta United locker room and see where it goes from there, because I think we have the players. I think they did an incredible job bringing in veterans and leaders from all around the league. And so hopefully we can join our experiences together and create a great atmosphere.
Mark, in the position you play, you were fortunate enough to play here in Toronto at BMO Field, which I consider either 1 or 1A the best in MLS. The grounds crew there have done an unbelievable job with all the obstacles they were faced in 2016 with the Toronto Argos Football Club there, rugby, on and on. I thought they did a marvelous job. But now you're going to transfer over to a completely different surface, if I'm not mistaken, with Atlanta. And it's going to be hard for you to adjust, I would say, at the beginning. The bounce of the ball, obviously your hips, your knees are going to take the brunt of it. How have you come around to really working on that in the offseason, knowing that now you're going to be playing there in a different situation, different surface?
Right, and, AstroTurf is nothing new for, I don't think, anybody on the team. So we all know what to expect, how to play on AstroTurf, and I don't think it's really going to be about that because each team is playing on the field at the same time. Everybody has to deal with the same issues. But I just can't wait for the new Mercedes-Benz Stadium to open up, because I think Atlanta's going to have one of the best atmospheres in the league, and some of the best fans. And like you talked about before, BMO was, I think, set a standard around the league for the grounds crew taking care of the field, everything in the stadium being what it is, and the fans showing up to every game. So I think Atlanta's going to have that, and of course it's turf, but we're going to adapt to it, and I don't think it's going to be an issue.
Mark, your faith is so important to you. I know that for a fact, because I come from the same faith background, and it means the world to you and your family. Let's talk about, obviously, the games that you didn't play, or the times you weren't called off the bench to give the team a boost when they needed it. How difficult, how hard was that mentally for you throughout the season, especially with the injuries as well? Because let's be honest, Mark, the mind is a way that can really give you ups and downs, a roller coaster ride, and it could hurt you in many ways. How did you handle that?
Right, and I think it would have been impossible for me without my faith, knowing that God has a plan for me, and knowing that my worth, my value is not determined by how much playing time I get, or how many assists I get, or how many goals I get, or winning or losing. Really, my identity is set in Him, and to know that and to have that to fall back on is of eternal value, and so I don't know how players do it without that kind of faith. So for me, just knowing that God always has a plan, and He's guiding me, and He's setting me up, and He's opening and closing doors according to His will and working for my good. So I know in that sense that I always have confidence that God is in control of my life, and so nothing is going to be more than I can handle. So for that reason, I could do that with a smile on my face. I could get through the tough times, and I not only get through them, but enjoy the process.
So as you're expressing that, as you're saying that, Mark, and as you're telling our viewers and listeners out there, there's a lot of young boys, a lot of young girls out there that I'm sure you know and you've heard about. I've witnessed it firsthand with two young sons myself up here in the system in Ontario for many, many years. The confidence is lacking in them because their coach doesn't believe in them. They're on the bench. They might not get the opportunity to shine in a big game. On and on and on. Unfortunately, there's too many coaches out there that think they're playing in a World Cup or whatever, an MLS Cup final, and they're not. And the confidence of these young kids, it really skyrockets down, and this is quite dangerous, I believe. What do you want to say to those young boys and girls out there, how you handled it as a pro?
Yeah, well, first and foremost, especially as a young kid, I want every kid to know that they need to dream big. Otherwise, they're never going to make it. So it doesn't matter if you're on the bench, if this coach isn't playing you or not. Those are things you can't control. But what you can control is your attitude, your work ethic on the field and off the field. I know when I was growing up, maybe I wasn't the biggest, I wasn't the strongest, I wasn't the fastest, but I would go home after training and I would go into my basement and do dribbling drills and fast footwork stuff with the ball. I always had a ball in my feet. I was always working harder when those other guys who maybe, when you're younger, they're bigger, faster, stronger, they kind of get the edge because, coaches at that level, they want to win, and that's important to them. And the development of younger, smaller players can kind of take a back seat sometimes. So I would say it's so important for these young kids to take it upon themselves to train on their own, to practice on their own, to watch soccer, and go to training with a good attitude. Not go to training and say, this coach doesn't like me, he's not going to play me, so what's the point of even trying? Because coaches notice that, and then you drop even farther and farther down on their depth chart. So I would say to dream big and take it into your own hands, because ultimately it's about you, and if you believe you can do it, there's a good chance that you will.